Well, after countless hours of turmoil and many significant losses, the fight for Negan has officially begun, and Rick Grimes finally has his mojo back. Hey guys, remember the mid-season premiere of The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 9, Rockin' the Road, and guys, I was definitely really looking forward to this premiere. As you guys know, I've actually really been enjoying the season. I know a lot of people didn't love the first half of the season, and I can understand why. I liked the unconventional type tone where they would, focus on one group per episode. I thought it was kind of cool the way they did that, but there was only so far you could go with that before you made it tiring and just very boring and unnecessary, and, a lot of the plot lines were kind of starting to feel hackneyed, so I was very much looking forward to seeing everyone come together, and this was overall a very satisfying premiere. I thought this was very well done. We finally got to see a sense of a group forming. There was a lot of information given to some of the members. Everyone's kind of caught up as to what's going on, and what I love the most is that I think this is the first episode in a while where we basically got to see everyone. The only person who wasn't in this episode was Negan, which was definitely, I think appropriate to see, but let's just get into this episode because I definitely really did enjoy this one overall. Let's first start at the beginning because, once again, guys, I do this every single finale or mid-season finale. For some reason, I'm that idiot that always skips the post-credits scene. It always happens to me. I don't know why, but I always miss what ends up happening in the post-credits. And if you guys don't know, we ended with Father Gabriel, near Alexandria, and there's like this sharpshooter after him. We don't really know what that's all about, but we cut back to Father Gabriel. He's staying atop the Alexandria wall. He reads through a holy Bible. He looks distressed, but finds something which brings him peace and a sigh of relief. He climbs down, makes his way to the pantry, and he's walking through the dark streets of Alexandria at night. Once inside, he moseys past the empty armory and into the room where all the food is being kept, and something comes crashing down. We don't know what it's really about, but he stashes food in this big crate, reads through the log, tossing the remaining weapons into a crate as well. So we can tell he's obviously trying to get away, and he's clearly trying to gather up, as much supply as he can. And outside, he tosses the crates into a trunk of a car and gasses it up, and then drives out of Alexandria. So, yeah, he's left. We don't know why he went or what exactly happened there. But I did like that we saw that he actually did leave. It actually shows that Gabriel, he's gaining some balls, definitely. I mean, we know that Gabriel, he's always been very focused on religion, and I think he still is, but I think he's realizing that he needs to fight, and he needs to do what he can to survive, and it's kind of every man for himself at this point, and, he needs to do what he can to get out of there. So Gabriel ends up leaving. Also, I think it's because, he's tried to find his way into the group, and there's just not really much for him to do. I think as much as they do trust him, I think he just kind of feels like he doesn't really fit in, so he's left. I thought it was a very good introduction to see Father Gabriel leave. A lot of people have said he's been kind of pointless on the show, and I don't know if that means he's going to be gone forever, but I do think we're not going to see Gabriel for a while, which I'm completely fine with. I feel like he was just always there. Like, I never really felt like this was a character that needed to be there. He should have honestly gotten killed a while ago, but I'm glad that he left. It gives us a reason to, give us more for the character to do. It gives them something to build on, and I do love the way they set that up. And what I like is that, other than this, apart from this scene, the rest of the episode is pretty much every character, which I really did love seeing. So Gregory swears off Rick's attempts to bargain with him and fight the Saviors, and I loved seeing Gregory and Rick fight. It just felt like we were coming full circle here, and basically he tells them their previous agreement is null and void, and he says in addition that they aren't trade partners, ruling out any other connections. So, again, he wants to just be in control of everything. He wants to be master manipulator, and he's not. That's not what Gregory is, and Jesus even calls him out for not helping save the community, because that's what he's supposed to do. I mean, he's supposed to be saving them, when Maggie and Sasha were the ones who did that. And I like that Jesus gave them credit for that. Jesus definitely did have something to do with it, but Rick insists the group can win and questions how Gregory wants to live. Maggie jumps in. Gregory's been calling them by the wrong name and insists that his people don't want to help, and he keeps calling Maggie Margaret, and they grow things, they don't fight. Tara insists that people will step up, give a choice, and Gregory insists he's not going to participate, though he admits that they would be better off without the Saviors, and he doesn't even really feel they're that much of a threat. He just thinks, oh, we'll be better off without them. So he's in complete denial. Daryl asks for a final ruling. Gregory says he made his position very clear and asks everyone go out the back as to avoid being seen. So obviously, they're not going to get through to him. They've done all they can to try. It's just not going to work. And, obviously they're quite frustrated because this is someone who they could use to their advantage. But outside of the room, everyone's frustrated. What I love about this episode, though, is Rick. Because Rick, throughout the entire episode, at no point feels hopeless. The entire episode, he has this huge batch of confidence. Why? Because he has so many people on his side. There's nothing really for him to fear. And I like seeing this more fearless type Rick. Now, am I saying that there's nothing that phases him? No, but for once, he actually does have some sort of hope that things could actually go well. Because we see he agrees they don't need him. Enid barges in and invites everyone outside. The community's waiting. We see Birdie introduces herself, says she and the others own their lives to them. She heard they want to fight Negan and questions if they truly believe that they can win. And Maggie believes that they can. The community's actually ready to fight behind Maggie. And I like that Maggie is the one who is being hailed as the leader, because yeah, Maggie was the one who did all this stuff, and I really did like hearing about that. And on their way out, Daryl suggests blowing the Saviors up, and Tara insists that there are innocent people at the sanctuary, and Rick suggests they get more numbers and hide Daryl in the meantime. So Jesus then reveals a walkie-talkie which listens in on the Saviors, revealing that he knows they don't need to hurry. It's time for Rick to meet King Ezekiel. And the second he said, I'm like, oh yes, finally we're going to see more Ezekiel, because the last time we saw him was episode 2. We haven't seen Ezekiel since then, and it was awesome to finally get to see Ezekiel again, because the truck arrives outside the kingdom. Jesus gets out first. Rick questions it being called the kingdom, and Jesus tells them they're at the outer edge. And I've said it before, the season's really, I think, about who really is the king of everything, and I think Ezekiel, he wants people to think that, and even Rick kind of believes that he is the king in a sense, but we know, obviously, he's not. Carol's the only one who knows that he's not the king. It's kind of interesting that we don't see Carol throughout this entire episode, though, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So Daryl then asks what they're waiting for. Jesus points to Richard and another men riding in on horses, and they begin questioning why whose Rick group really is, because they haven't seen them before, and Jesus requests an audience with King Ezekiel. Richard insists everyone get out of the car and questions how they are like-minded. Jesus says they live and fight the dead and sometimes others. Richard actually asks them to line up. Daryl's eager to leave, not waste time, and Richard's okay with them leaving, but Michonne's very calm enough to buy into their scheme, prompting Carl and Rick to hand over the group's only guns, which, because she knows they can trust them. This isn't someone who's going to use it, against them. So Richard speaks privately to Jesus on the way over, insists that packs don't matter if they don't start fighting the Saviors. You can't have this huge group and not be willing to take on the Saviors. They need to do that. That needs to be their goal. Not take on Negan, take on the Saviors. If you take on the Saviors, then Negan has no army, which, yeah, that is the smart thing to do. There are so many of them, but yeah, the best thing to do is to take on the Saviors. And I definitely would agree with that. So Jesus promises to make Richard smile for the first time, because obviously we know it's been a while since he hasn't. So inside the kingdom, Michonne realizes that they actually have the numbers, and Jesus promises that they can fight, but Daryl's very skeptical. He doesn't really know if they have the army. Remember, he's seen what Negan can do. He was held prisoner, he was stripped bare of everything, and he tried to stay confident for his own benefit, that way he wouldn't seem weak-minded and get killed. He had to do what he can to stay strong, but he's seen what Negan can do. He's seen the numbers that he has. He's seen the lengths that Negan will go. I mean, Carl as well, those are the two people who they really should be looking to. Now, I'm not saying that Carl is, the one who should be the leader. No, never. Carl never makes great decisions, but I do think, however, that Carl and Daryl have a little bit more experience with Negan than some of the others do, and Rick looks satisfied, but so questions a guy called Ezekiel, and Morgan walks out. Rick is surprised to see him, and Rick tells Richard that they go back to the start. Everyone goes inside, but Rick and Daryl ask about Carol. He found her, but she tells him that she left. She was unhappy. He found her. She was shot, but the doctors helped her. And Daryl asks if it was the Saviors. He replies positively, and he says that Carol was there, she got help, and now she's gone. So Daryl's upset by the news, and the group then approaches Ezekiel and Shiva in the theater. So Jerry greets them, and Ezekiel questions who they are. The group is startled by the tiger, and Rick is slow to address King Ezekiel, but tells him Alexandria, the Hilltop, and the Kingdom. All three of their communities have something in common. They all serve the same saviors. And Alexandria already fought them once, and they won. They thought they took out the threat, which they didn't. He continues pleading his case, reveals his knowledge of Ezekiel's pact with the saviors, and He's very angered as people are unaware of the pact with the Saviors, it turns to Rick's plans. So Rick asks the kingdom to join them in fighting the Saviors, and he says it's a very serious request. I mean, again, he knows, how big of a deal this is to actually take on the Saviors, which is like the majority of the humans right now. So Michonne pleads with him, says that several of their people were killed by the Saviors, and Morgan asks who. Rosita tells him Abraham, Glenn, Spencer, Olivia, and Eugene were taken. He says that he's sorry they're gone. And Jesus asks Ezekiel to change the world. Rick wants to be honest. He says his people are strong, but they're not enough but they're just not enough of them. Yes, he has the numbers, but they need a much bigger army, and Ezekiel has that army that he really needs. And again, I love the way that Rick is, doing whatever he can to beg and plead him, because you can see that while he is hopeful, he still does have doubts that maybe they won't be able to take him on. But again, just seeing Rick's optimism is something that we've rarely seen in a while, and I really like seeing that here. So Richard then basically tells him that they have what he needs. They have people and weapons, and striking first can beat them. And Richard says that the time is now, that really this is the only time they'll get to fight. And yeah, I mean, that really is true. We see how much more every day Negan's people seem to be multiplying more and more. Why? Because they're just that afraid of him that they're just willing to give in. We've seen that pretty much all season. And yeah, if they don't strike now, they'll never be able to. Negan will just rule out all of them, and they obviously can't let that happen. This is something that Ezekiel has obviously left gone unnoticed because he's felt so on top of things, when in reality, as we know, he's just an actor. He's playing it up this entire time, and I think he's just kind of starting to, he's been trying to adhere to everyone, think he's this great leader, but we know he's really not. So we can really feel Ezekiel's emotion in this scene. Like, we can really tell that he's very, he's very, he's very weary about doing this. Like, he kind of wants to, but at the same time, he's not. Like, he really doesn't know if he really wants to do this. So basically, Ezekiel defers to Morgan for his opinion. Morgan is saying the people will die. A lot of people, and not just the Saviors, and if they invite another way, they have to. Maybe it's about Negan not capturing him, holding him. So King Ezekiel insists he needs time to think about all this, and Rick tells Ezekiel about a story his mother told him as a kid. And on the way to the kingdom, this was a rock in the road. People would hit it and lose their wagons and such, and a little girl's family hit the rock, lost their supplies. The girl then sat there, cried, and wondered why the rock was still there to hurt someone. She dug at the rock in the road with her hands until they bled and used everything she had to pull it out. When she was going to fill it up, she saw a bag of gold. And Jerry loves ending the story, and Rick says that the king put the rock in the road because the person who removed it deserved to have their lives changed for the good forever. So basically, Ezekiel invites Rick's group to stay the night, promises to deliver his decree in the morn, and essentially what they're trying to say is that they found that bag of gold. That bag of gold is Rick's army. The bag of gold is Rick finally having the confidence again. And they don't try to be very subtle about it, but The Walking Dead's never exactly been a subtle show, so it's not really a surprise. But one of the kingdom's young soldiers, Benjamin, ventures through the woods. He comes across Carol with a rifle. They almost shot each other. He thought that she was a walker, and she questions why he didn't run the other way. She tells him it's going to be dark soon and he should go. And Benjamin tells that Ezekiel is going to continue checking on her despite not wanting to bug her. So he cares about her, and again, we don't know what Carol and Ezekiel have been up to at this point. We know, obviously, Ezekiel, gave her that chance to turn herself around. We just don't know what's happened there. And Carol offers a few last tips on how to be quiet and sends Benjamin on his way. And at the kingdom, Ezekiel speaks to a kid in bed about allowing freedom to reign, quoting Martin Luther King. And Benjamin looks on from the doorway. Ezekiel asks why he missed supper and is proud of him for going out alone. He says that he saw Carol and Ezekiel asked about her. He says he carries food and water for the same reason they should say yes to Rick. Because, again, he's very doubtful about this, and the look in their eyes said they're going to risk everything regardless of their response, and we see that if they stand by while the Sanctuary defeats Negan, they'll have done nothing. There's nothing they're going to do if they do that. So, if they just stand by, they'll just feel like they didn't get a chance to do anything. And Ezekiel hugs him, thanks him, tells him his father would be proud, and the king is proud. As we know, Ezekiel wants to deserve that honor of being king. He really does want to be a king. He just doesn't feel like he truly actually deserves that honor. He treats everyone like he is a king, but in reality, he's anything but a king. And I really do love the way they're setting up that Ezekiel actually does have that chance to be something more than just an ordinary man who's, who's just playing it up as a king. He actually can deserve that honor of being a king. So the next day, soldiers then jog through the community. Others train with a bow and arrow. Ezekiel's showing everyone around, and he's telling them this is life here every day, but it comes at a cost. And he explains that he wanted more than this, but men and women lost limbs. Children lost parents because they were sent to battle when they didn't need to be. And Rick tells Ezekiel that outside of the kingdom, people don't have this good. This is just something that is unheard of. And Daryl questions Ezekiel calling himself a king. Ezekiel defends himself, and he tells Rick he has to hold on to the community and cannot offer soldiers for war. However, offers offers Daryl asylum to hide from the Saviors. So everyone walks away, including Morgan, and only Jerry stays with King Ezekiel. So Sasha and Rosita talk, and there's a little tension going on with Sasha and Rosita that I think is kind of dumb. Sasha says that she knew he would say no, but that she's still pissed off, and Rosita asks why she's telling her this, and Rosita says that just because they had sex with the same dead guy doesn't make them friends, and at this point, I think they should just move on. I don't know why they're so upset about this and that there's so much animosity between these two. Just move the hell on. There's other things to deal with. No one cares about this storyline. I mean, I kind of cared about it when Abraham's alive, but the fact is, Abraham died. You've moved on from his death. Why are you still mad at each other for this? It just seems like this is something that they probably should just let go and forget, but I'm sure the show is doing this so they can actually give these characters some good drama, which Rosita's had some really good stuff over the past few episodes, but this kind of doesn't really, this does not go with that at all. This is kind of like weak character development that just feels like something in like a teen drama. I don't really know why this is here. And again, these are two adult women. Just move the hell on. It's really dumb. But behind them, Rick, Morgan, Richard, and Michonne discuss options. Richard's eager to fight. They catch up to Daryl and the bunch. Daryl's going to stay behind, and Rick asks him to try and talk to Ezekiel, promising to come back soon. And Negan says over a radio he's delivering Joey's obituary, and he says for anyone out there who loved the obese bastard as much as he did, he just wanted to say a few words. He says things will not be the same now that he's dead, and Rick's group drives to a blockade of cars, but Rick elects to move the car. Move them back as to avoiding alerting whoever put them in the road, and Michonne then hands Rick a pair of binoculars and tells him to look at something. They spotted dynamite, and it was cool to hear Negan's voice, but his presence in the episode was definitely felt, but we didn't really get to see him, so it was kind of weird. But Carl realizes this for her. They need explosives and begin trying to disarm it, so Rosita starts digging into some wires while Negan radios to send a search party for Daryl, and because obviously they want Daryl back. He didn't leave on, he left on his own terms. They didn't tell him to leave. So she quickly removes a battery, tells everyone to be careful about, but quickly remove the dynamite casings. They have to beat Negan back to Alexandria. One by one, they remove the explosives from the wire across the road they've been tethered to. Carl sees her in the distance. The group hurries to pack the dynamite, but put the cars back and get on the road. Rick insists they might need the herd, and Rick then sends Sasha and Jesus to the hilltop on foot with a message for Maggie that they haven't given up, and we then get one of the coolest walker killings we have ever seen on this show. So Rick and Michonne come up with a plan to attract the herd with the cars attached to the dynamite. They hotwire their cars while the rest of the group hides in the truck. They literally drive down the highway using the wires to cut through the herd. They just mount them down one by one. I mean, they just felt like dominoes. It was amazing to watch. And honestly, this far into the series, you don't think they could be cool with the walker killings, but they really do know how to step it up and still give us these really cool killings that are things you just haven't thought of. It's really awesome to watch, and it just shows how much of a threat the walkers aren't anymore. Like, they're just becoming so much more powerful that they don't need the walkers. Like, they're not much of a threat. They're just kind of there. So they quickly hop out. They push through a crowd of walkers to get in the truck and escape. And Michonne tells Rick to smile because they made it. And she says that they can make it, they will. They're the ones that live. If they can take down that many walkers, then they should be able to take down the Saviors. And as much as I do love Michonne's optimism, it doesn't exactly work out like that. I mean, Negan's group, it's no secret that their group is so much more ostensibly powerful. I mean, they just are. There's so many more of them. They're actually alive. They can actually, walk. They don't just walk. They're a lot more threatening than just a bunch of walkers. That's as much as Michonne wants to think that. I don't think killing the Savior is going to be as easy as taking out a group of walkers. So I appreciate the enthusiasm, but it's just not going to be as easy. But just as Rick arrives at Alexandria, the Saviors show up. Simon's there acting as Negan and asks for Daryl. Rick insists they don't know where Daryl is. Simon launches a search for Daryl, tells everyone to find a buddy so they can see Daryl die, and the Saviors tear apart the safe zone. They're destroying furniture, more in their search, and again, just because Negan is there doesn't mean that the Savior's presence isn't there. And Simon heads to the pantry, sees that it's empty. Rick promises to find more, but Simon tells everyone to relax because they are not here for a pickup. He heads to the gate, apologizes for the mess, hops in a truck, and before driving off, he tells Rick that if Daryl doesn't show up there is no statute of limitations on the punishment. That if he shows up, then obviously, they're still going to kill him. It's not going to make much of a difference if he just turned himself in, essentially. So Rick then asks where Gabriel is. Tobin tells him he's missing since the pantry was emptied, and Rosita's quick to accuse him. And back at the armor, Rick looks at Gabriel's Bible. Tara and Michonne discuss what could have happened. Rick asks why he would leave the Holy Bible behind. He finds a note inside of it that says boat, and we don't know what that means. We just know that he left, and He just wrote boat on it, but Rick and Aaron question how he would know that they're out there. There's no way he would know. So Aaron packs a bag to set out with Rick, and Eric catches him. Aaron says the others need him. Eric wants the truth about what's going on, and Aaron reveals the truth that there's a plan to fight the Savers, which Eric doesn't actually support. He just wants the both of them alive, and it's a really well done scene. I mean, yeah, obviously Eric is in complete denial this entire scene, but you can really see that Eric, does want something of a normal life, which those two essentially did have. I mean, we were led into the show. Aaron was just someone who happened to find the group, if you remember. He just found them, he didn't really mean anything about it. He just saw that they were out there, that they needed shelter, and he found them. And for a while, their stay was safe, as we know. That was the Alexandria safe zone. The Alexandria safe zone isn't really a safe zone anymore. As much as Eric would love to think that this is a place for them to kind of, settle down and just be a couple, that's just not how the world is. They need to take down these Savers, because if they don't, they're just going to multiply. And while it might not seem as much of a problem, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And that's something that Eric really needs to realize here, and I did really like the way this scene was done with someone who hasn't seen all the shit that's gone on versus someone who has, and it really just show how much Aaron has evolved from then till now, and that's something I love. Aaron's a character that always seems like an afterthought, and for once he actually was, and I love they actually tried to give him some really good development here. I was very impressed by that. But then we get to the ending here, which I love the ending. At the lake, Rick, Michonne, Rosita, Tara, and Aaron search for Gabriel. Rick finds the lead in the form of a footprint on the ground. They follow the tracks and stay alert. Eventually, they find themselves surrounded by this huge armed group dressed in dark clothes, and they quickly close in on them without saying a word, so the cameras get tight. But Rick is not feared. He's actually smiling because he has nothing to fear because of the huge army he has, and that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall. Let's just get into this episode and where it's going to take us for the rest of the season. So overall, guys, I really did enjoy this episode, I have to say, and like I said, it was quite different from other episodes this season because of the fact that, one, it wasn't divided like the other ones were. The other ones were very much, I'd say, chapters of a book, very much like that, where you had, just cutting back to different groups. It was kind of like the subplot of an episode was the main plot. They did that quite well, I will definitely say. I think it worked for a while. I was very happy to see them, with that formula, but I was happy that they deviated from, because again, I don't know how far they could have gone with that, and I like that everyone is back together. What I really do love is Rick's optimism, though. The fact that he really thinks that this is going to work out really well for them. Even though he knows it is going to be a hard journey, he still knows that he has an army to take down this group. Nothing really is scaring him that much, and even though, yes, he knows that deep down, there definitely are doubts, and yeah, it might not be the easiest thing to take down Negan, but in the end, he does have the group to do it, and he does have enough people that have a bone to pick with Negan, and they have a bone to pick with him for reasons. They don't just have a bone to pick with him because he's the leader. No, they have strong reasons why. They've wanted to kill him for a while, and they need to strike against him now, and I loved seeing that. I thought that was very, very strong to see, and again, I really do love his optimism in that sense. I thought that was definitely very well handled, though that definitely was really well done, and I really did enjoy seeing that. But as far as some of the other stuff going on in this episode, I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen with Daryl, because Daryl is in the most tenuous position right now because of the fact that the Savers are hot on the trail. I mean, they're going to find him no matter what. I'm surprised they haven't tried to chip him yet or something. I mean, really, they are relentless in finding him. Even when you have Daryl, who has gone away, and they're telling him that he's gone, they're still relentless. I mean, he literally told Simon Daryl left. Negan took him, but Simon obviously is not going to believe that, and they're, tampering through all these shelves and things like that. I mean, they will do whatever they can. So Daryl's in a very bad position right now, and I really don't know if he's going to get out of it, I have to say. I mean, I would have said a couple seasons ago that Daryl, he is the glue, he's the thing that makes the show have so many fans, and I still would say that, but Norman Reedus is such a popular actor that I feel like he's good. He has other shows, he has other projects he can do. If he gets killed off in The Walking Dead, sure, there'll be an uproar, maybe for a little bit, but I think it really would make sense. It's been a long time coming. I think Daryl pretty much needs to die this season, and that's really going to be the catalyst for really avenging, Daryl, taking down Negan. It's going to be for avenging Daryl. I think that really is going to be what's going to get us into season 9 is really, season 8 is really taking down Negan. I can't even remember what season we're on. I'm so stupid. But season 8, I think that really is going to set that up quite well, but we'll have to see the way that conflict is done. I also really loved seeing what they did with Ezekiel in this episode. That Ezekiel really does have these doubts. Even though he is the king, he knows deep down he might not be that tough or that violent enough to take down someone like Negan. And I like seeing that he's really evolving in that way. You know, he's realizing now I'll finally have something to actually achieve that honor. You know, now I'll actually be able to be recognized as a king. It's a very good arc for Ezekiel. I loved where Ezekiel's been going in these 2 episodes, and I really hope they don't mess with it, because he's had one of the best arcs, I think, out of any character this season. I really do like where they've been going with him, so I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go as well. And then Aaron, I like what they tried to give Aaron a sense of something. Gabriel, I don't know where Gabriel's going. He's getting away from the group. I don't know if we're going to see him for the rest of the season, if he's going to be gone, if we're going to possibly have an episode where we catch up with him. Please, no, I don't really want an episode like that. I would possibly want a Negan episode. That is my one flaw, that Negan wasn't in this episode, but he really didn't need to be. The threat of Negan was very well addressed in this episode. Like, it wasn't like Negan wasn't there. Like, the threat of him was definitely there. The saviors were there. There was enough stuff in here to get us threatened of Negan. Like, I didn't need Negan to be in this entire episode. I think Jeffrey D. Morgan, he's fantastic, but we don't need him in every episode. I mean, after a while, it does get tiring. I will definitely say that. My only complaint with this episode is I did feel that a few of the characters were definitely a bit underused. Not really too many. They tried to give something to every character, and I definitely did appreciate them doing that. But like, Carl didn't really have anything to do. I know some people aren't too upset about that, but I feel like after Carl, what he went through with Negan, he should actually have a little bit more to do here. He really didn't have more to do. I love the focus on Maggie and Jesus. I love that they're the ones that are pretty much being told to command this group. I kind of wanted more of a reaction from Morgan after him finding out all these people died. Morgan didn't really have much of a reaction. He did definitely have one, but I just felt like we could have done a little bit more with that, and they didn't really get into that much. I felt like they could have done more there, but again, you know, they didn't really get into that. And especially Sasha and Rosita, that really did piss me off a bit, because I've been giving them some very good strong female characters, and that completely retcons that. I mean, when you're just having them fighting over this guy, that is akin to basically having 2 teenage girls fighting over the same guy in high school. That is exactly what that is. It's dumb. I don't know why it's here. It doesn't belong in this season. I don't know why they're getting upset over them sleeping with Abraham. Just move the fuck on. It's not something to worry about right now. Other than that, guys, I really did love this episode. I thought this was a very well-deserved, hopeful episode of triumph, and really showing us that maybe this group can prevail. And I am overall going to give The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 9, Rockin' the Road, a 4 to 5 or a B+. Guys, this is definitely, I think, more of what people want to see in this show. And what I really did love about this episode, that there wasn't a ton of violence here. Like I said, there was that really awesome Walker kill, which showed the show can still do great violence, but they are trying to give us a good story here. They are trying to give us good character moments, and I do like the way the show is still doing that. This far into the show, it's still impressing me, and that's something that I will say that's great about The Walking Dead, is that it still is impressing me 7 seasons in. It's still finding ways to be interesting and be relevant, and through that relevance, I think it's really doing a good job of it. Like, they're really doing what they can. They're listening to fans. They're doing what they can to make the stories interesting, and I really do love the way the writers are doing that. Just really great stuff overall. There's a lot of hope throughout this episode, and I'm hoping that, you know, that hope definitely does succeed. I'm hoping these characters do succeed. It gives us more reasons to like them more. A lot of people have said throughout the show that the characters aren't likable, and we can't really root for them. This is giving us a reason to root for them. Now we want them to succeed. We want to root for them. We want to, you know, we now like them now, and that's giving us more of a reason for them to rise up. We want to see him take down Negan, and I'm really hoping that takedown is as satisfying as the build-up so far is. But over, guys, to marry this episode of The Walking Dead. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts in it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which I think will, I don't know, but I think it's going to be for Homeland. I don't know. It might be for a movie review, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.